Hello guys, and welcome to the Hybrid Templar PvP build video. This is a super sweet build, guys. I've built hybrids in the past, and this is by far the strongest hybrid I have ever built. And I mean it when I say that. This thing is competitive with non-hybrid builds in PvP. It is so good. So what does this build have? 4.6k weapon and spell damage. We have major and minor mending. We have minor vitality for 41% increased healing power just from buffs alone. We've got minor berserk, major expedition. We've got minor protection, both the armor buffs. We have access to immovability. We have major force, major protection. I mean, this build is so buff heavy, it's not even funny. And on top of it, this build spams. I'm talking AoE spams in power. It's so great. So yeah, I was so excited to play this build, so excited to jump back into a hybrid, guys. We've got the 2 heals over time on this build, 1 stamina, 1 magicka. We've got 2 burst heals, 1 stamina, 1 magicka, an even split between stamina and magicka offensive skills. I mean, I just don't even know what to say, guys. This is such a cool build. I really hope you guys enjoy it. And if you guys want to see more builds like this from me, show the love, hit that like and or subscribe button, and we'll pump out more hybrids for you guys.
So guys, let's jump into that build. Let's get going on it, and let's check out what we're running here today. Taking a look at our stat page, we can see we've got my Templar here. I am a Nord Templar. We've talked about this in the past with hybrids. The best race that you can pick most of the time for a hybrid build is Dark Elf, and that's due to the fact that Dark Elf gets 9% max magicka and 6% max stam bonus. But anyway, so I am a Nord, so I've got a little bit of reduced incoming damage and a little bit more max stam. The reduced incoming damage is nice, but the max stam doesn't really make a huge impact. Now, if we look at our max stat pools, they actually look quite low, and this is something about hybrid builds that you're just going to have to adjust to, is the really low max stat pools. They just are. And it can be a little bit daunting to look at this stat page, and the first thing you'd think is this build doesn't have enough sustain, etc. Well, you'd be quite surprised at how well the sustain on a hybrid works. A big part of playing a hybrid correctly is pulling out of the pool that you have more resources from at the time, and what that does is it just allows your other pool to easily tick up and replenish while you're pulling no resources from it. So your recoveries averaging at just over 2k for a hybrid build is actually quite good. If you start to get the recoveries averaging over the 3k mark, you'll actually find that your hybrid has almost too much sustain and that you want to drop some of that sustain for damage instead. But otherwise, we've got a pretty decent max hit point here. I mean, almost 28k max HP. That's super awesome for PvP. You can't complain about that. And since we've got so much healing power on this build, having a large hit point pool is really going to tie in well with that, simply because it gives us more hit points to heal away, and we can take more damage and then burst heal it right back up to full. Our recoveries, like I said, are fairly low here. We're coming in at 1k magicka recovery, stamina recovery coming in at 1170. Now we are running Essence of Immovability, which gives us the stamina recovery bonus as well. So we come up to about 1300 stam recovery on this build. So it's not anything crazy. We do have the immovability for 17 seconds, so that's a big part of helping out the stam sustain there. And we are running a restoration staff, so a big part of our magicka sustain is actually going to come out of popping heavy attacks off this resto staff. Not only is it going to return tons of magicka, but on top of it, it's going to give us a big uptime on major mending, which is going to make our heals even more impressive. If we look at the offensive stat page, guys, we'll buff up with Rally real quick for you here. We're coming in at 4.066 weapon spell damage on this build. Now, I do have a little bit of a 5% bonus from being in this low pop campaign, and I apologize for that. I would normally film this in a campaign where I don't have a hidden bonus like that, but the Vivek campaign is full today, and this was the only other vet campaign that I could film the build in. So, unfortunately, we're going to have about 5% more weapon spell damage than we should. And the last little bit to keep in mind is that we are running the infused restoration staff, so our total weapon spell damage on this build, fully buffed, comes up to 4,600. I'd be sitting at around 4,700 plus with the 5% bonus right now. So our weapon and spell damage is very, very high on this build. It is absolutely important. I mean, if you've ever played a Pelinals build before, you know the most important thing to do on a Pelinals build is to stack that weapon and spell damage as high as you can possibly get it. For our crit rates, guys, we've got 33.3% weapon crit and 25.8% spell crit. Now, we are running Reflective Light, so our spell crit goes up to 35.8%. So we're sitting right around the 35% crit mark for both our weapons and spell abilities. Not a huge amount of crits on this build. However, they do come in handy every now and then, and that 35% crit rate is about the bare minimum, I think, that you want to sit at for a non-heavy armor build. So there you have it. The crit rate isn't super crazy, but it's not a huge part of the build. Because this is PvP, so crits, unless you got a really heavily crit-invested build, crits usually isn't the best way to go. For our physical and spell resistance, as well as our critical resistance, we'll buff it up real fast for you. You can see we're coming at 20k spell, 18.5k physical, and almost 2k crit resist. Really awesome resists on this build. I mean, they're nothing insane, but they are pretty standard medium armor resists, which are quite good. Medium armor giving you pretty decent resistance, I think. And the crit resist coming in at that 2k mark. I honestly wouldn't drop it much lower than around 2k. The crit resist really comes in handy for soaking up incoming damage in PvP. For the buffs that we're running on this build, guys, of course, the boon that we have is the Warrior. This is going to double dip with our Pelinals, giving us both weapon and spell damage. So this is an absolute must. We've got Minor Berserk coming off Slimecraw, and there you have it. Slimecraw giving us Minor Berserk, 8% increased damage to all of our outgoing damage abilities. Slimecraw, an absolutely fantastic buffing damage set for anyone who doesn't have access to Minor Berserk. And then finally, for the food, guys, we've gone with increase all of our 3 primary stats. So we're actually just running plain old tri-stat food on this build. Now, there's a lot of options that you have for food on this build. There's this tri-stat food here, which I think is the best all-around food that you can run for the build. And this is simply because it gives you both your max stats for damage, and it also gives you a big chunk of max health. So it gives you your offensive power from your pools, as well as giving you that big max health chunk to help you soak up even more damage in PvP and make yourself a little bit more durable. You could also go with the blue dual stat food, and this is kind of a rare food. You don't see a lot of people run. Increase your max stamina and max magicka by almost 5k for 1 hour. So it's a little bit of a trade-off here. What you end up doing is you end up giving up your 4.5k HP for around 1,000 more magicka and stamina. So it's up to you if you want to do this. I tried the blue food out, and I will say it's actually really good. If you have this build decked out with Hacky Joes and everything, you sit around 22k HP to 23k HP with the blue food on. So it's actually quite a viable option if you want to give it a shot for a higher damage alternative to this hybrid build. And then, of course, there is Orzorga's Smoked Bear Haunch, and I put this in here as a recommended food simply because it'll be great for anyone who wants to try this build out, but is maybe a little bit uncomfortable with the lower sustain that it has, and wants to give a higher sustain version of this build a shot. Now, the downside to this food is that your max pools become quite a bit lower, so you'll be sitting around the 19k max magicka stamina, which isn't a lot, to be honest. It's not a ton of max magicka stamina. However, your regens will be much better, so you will find that your regen will be fairly good on this build. That being said, I would highly recommend that you try out the purple food to begin with. Don't be too daunted by the lower regens, and if you're really struggling with sustain, give the Orzorga Smoked Bear Haunch or even the Crowns of Misrule if you don't want to spend the money on Orzorgas. Give one of those foods a shot for the regen and see how you like it. See if it makes a difference for you. Okay, guys, so let's take a look at the gear that we are running today. We're just going to move this real quick. We have got 5-piece Pelinals Aptitude on. So this is the set that, of course, I had mentioned earlier on. 5-piece Pelinals Aptitude, so important. It gives you max health, both your recoveries, your weapon and spell damage now become the highest of the 2 values. This is a fantastic set, arguably the best hybrid set in the game. It is one of the easiest and most effective ways to stack your damage up on a hybrid build in ESO. Absolutely love this set. So we're wearing it in our body piece, our gloves, legs, and our belt. And then finally we have Pelinals weapons as well. For the 4-piece that we're running with Pelinals, I have 4 Imperial Physique. Now this is kind of a strange option, I know, but I really liked this pick for a couple reasons. The first one is we get the Stamina Magicka recovery off of this set, which is absolutely fantastic. This is going to go a long way to helping our sustain out, having both of these. And between this and Pelinal's Aptitude, we pretty much have snuck in an Amber Plasm regen set into this build between these two sets. So pretty sweet to fit that in there. The hybrid sustain, absolutely great. And then finally we have the weapon spell damage on the 4-piece on it. Now we only really need the weapon damage off this because we're running Pelinals anyway. So why is this such a great option? Well, first of all, it's the only 4-piece set in the game that offers you both sustain and weapon damage. And that's why we picked it, because that is exactly what this build needed, I believe, to be moved to the next level of success. The second reason that I picked it is because you can get it in gold jewelry and you can get it arcane and robust. It doesn't matter which one you really get because you're going to be using your attribute points to even out your max pools anyway. As you can see here, we've gone for nearly 24k for evening out the max pools there, 2638 in order to get it. But it'll be different for everyone depending on what kind of racial passives your character has, and of course what kind of enchants you have on your jewelries here, be it arcane or robust. You don't want to go with healthy here. I would highly recommend not hitting healthy, and that's simply because you don't need the HP. We have a lot of HP on this build. Healthy is kind of a waste. And then finally, we've got the last piece of Imperial Physique in our boots here. And then for the last set we're running on the build, we have a 2-piece Slime Craw, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this shoulder here should have a Tri-Stat Hacky Joe glyph on it as well. But Slime Craw, of course, is going to be a fantastic option for a hybrid build because one piece is going to give us both of our crits. That is super fantastic. It's giving us both crits and then also Minor Berserk on the Templar, a buff that Templar is missing, and that's 8% increased outgoing damage. So this is really, really awesome. I mean, seriously, I can't complain. This is the best that I've ever had hybrid Templar. This is the ultimate gear set, I think, for a hybrid Templar, especially if you want to run the Greatsword Resto weapon combination. If you want to run some dual wield, etc., then maybe you can open up Sheer Venom as an optional set. But there you have it, guys. So let's take a look at some of the traits on our weapons here. The Greatsword, we have gone with Nirnhoned. Of course, this is going to increase all of our outgoing healing on our Greatsword bar and all our outgoing damage. Our Greatsword is our burst damage / healing bar, so all of our bursty skills are on here, and they need to have the highest damage values that we can get them due to them being the burst abilities. We've gone with a disease enchant on the Greatsword just for a little bit of heal debuff, one of a personal favorite enchants of mine. And then on the Restoration Staff, we've gone with Infuse to increase that enchantment effect and reduce the cooldown to 5 seconds. And now what we've got is the increased weapon spell damage by 452 for 5 seconds. So after the math gets worked in, this works out to be over 600 increased weapon damage from just hitting someone with your stick every 5 seconds. Due to this being a hybrid build, you're swapping between your weapons a lot, so you will keep this Infused enchant up quite often. As you get better at playing the build, you can expect an 80% uptime on this enchant. So there you have it, guys. Very, very strong enchant. And both of these are great because they will couple both the weapon spell damage. Even if we weren't running Pelinals, they would be. So there you have it. For the enchants on the jewelry, guys, we went full weapon damage glyphs. That's to give us the weapon spell damage from Pelinals. Absolutely a must. And then on all of the gear, guys, you want to go for the Tri-Stat Hacky Joe glyphs. I am missing one on my shoulder here, but there you see it. Want to go for those Tri-Stats simply because it's going to give you the Magicka and Stamina and then free HP on top, allowing you to invest more into damage and less into HP in this build. And then finally, guys, the traits on the gear is 2 impenetrable and 5 well-fitted. As you can see, we're in 5 medium, 1 light, 1 heavy, so I highly recommend running 5 well-fitted. Roll dodging is so important for medium armor gameplay, and this build is not only really great at doing the medium armor gameplay and very fast, but on top of it, it's pretty decently chunky as well. So the well-fitted is going to be great to just get you out of those really dangerous situations when you have a lot of players on you. And then, of course, we've got the 2-piece impen here just to buff up that crit resist against opposing players. Okay guys, so let's take a look at those abilities. So before we take a look at the abilities, I'm going to preface this by saying it is a hybrid build, so your ability options are pretty much any ability that doesn't scale off HP. So if you're a Templar, that means every ability except Blazing Shield and your Undaunted Bone Shield. So there's only 2 skills that you can't use effectively on this build. Every single other ability is so good on this build. You have access to it. You can use literally whatever you want. You can use any weapon combination you want as well. You don't have to run the Resto Greatsword, but I would recommend running a range/melee weapon so you can at least keep that enchant proc up. So I have chosen Resto Greatsword due to it being a personal favorite weapon combination of mine. I've always wanted to do a hybrid Resto Greatsword build, so I'm so happy to finally put one out for you guys. Let's take a look at that Greatsword bar. This is a very classic Greatsword bar of mine. As you can see here, it's running my standard Greatsword skills that I love to run on my Templar. We've got Executioner as our first skill here. This is going to be our Execute, dealing exponentially more damage against a target with low health. Very cheap ability as well. Then we've got Critical Rush. This is a fantastic gap closer. Not only is it going to hit hard, but on top of it, it'll deal bonus damage and crit every single time based on the distance that you are from your target. And you can see here, our tooltips are pretty decent. Almost a 7k tooltip on Crit Rush versus my Glass Cannon Stamina Templar build is coming in at an 8k Crit Rush tooltip. So it's only 12% less damage than my Glass Cannon Stamina Templar build. So here you can really see that our damage is not lacking on this build one bit at all. The next ability we have is Honor the Dead, and just because we need to show you this, I will show you our tooltip value. 13,643 health tooltip on Honor the Dead. So almost the 14k tooltip. We would hit over 14k with our Staff Enchant proc. This is of course going to restore the 60% of the ability's cost if you heal anyone below 75% HP, and due to it being a Restoring Light ability, it'll have bonus healing if you pop it on a player with lower HP as well. Honor the Dead is so good on this build, guys. We have it on the Greatsword bar because this is our statistically most impressive bar. Even though we're running Resto Staff, the healing is actually better on the Greatsword bar. But yeah, it's such a good heal. I mean, this is the Magicka Templar's mainstay heal. We've got it on this build for that reason, and due to the fact that we have 2 burst heals on this build, it means that we can really take advantage of the resource return off Honor the Dead because we will not have to spam it. So let's see what else we've got here. Rally coming in as our next ability here. And our Rally is just like Honor the Dead. I mean, once Rally starts ticking up and starts getting in there, the tooltip on it gets absolutely insane. So this is our second burst heal for this build. As you can see, we've got 1 Magicka, 1 Stamina. This one's a bit cheaper than Honor the Dead, however, it does not return the cost. And Rally, of course, is going to put a heal over time on you, also give you access to that Major Brutality, which effectively counts as Major Sorcery for the build as well. So there you have it, guys. Rally tooltip, as you can see, is creeping up there. We've got it up to the almost an 11k tooltip is where we got the Rally. So 2 very, very powerful heals on this build. And the beauty of it being a hybrid is that it is pulled out of either of our pool here. So if we have a lot of stamina, we can heal with that. If we have a lot of Magicka, we can heal with that. The next ability we have is Binding Javelin. This is going to be your stun for the build. Binding Javelin, a personal favorite stun of mine. It deals a lot of upfront damage, of course has a chance of proccing Burning Light for even more damage, and it's a brutal, brutal knockback that stuns them for 3.5 seconds afterwards. So this is a very long duration stun. It's really nice. The 8-meter distance helps you set a crit rush right after your Binding Javelin as well. Even if you're at point blank range, your heavy attack has 8 meters of range as well, so you can do a Binding Javelin into heavy attack crit rush and land a pretty nasty combo on people using this ability. And then finally, for the ultimate on this build, we have Flawless Dawnbreaker, guys. Flawless Dawnbreaker, of course, is here for that 5% bonus weapon damage, plus 3% for being a Fighter's Guild skill. So 8% more weapon damage for slotting Flawless. Absolutely fantastic, and a must-have on our front bar for the hybrid. So just a little thing to say, guys, I personally don't like to run jabs on my Templar, as I don't like running melee distance channeled skills. I don't have anything against jabs, it's just a playstyle preference. So if you guys want, you can always take out Executioner for biting jabs here. I wouldn't recommend taking off Javelin simply because the Javelin is your only stun on the build, so you do want to make sure you keep that stun. Executioner is only your execute, and you can of course replace that with jabs, giving you option to a spammable as well as some AoE pressure on top of it. That being said, once we take a look at our Magicka side as well, we have quite a bit of AoE pressure on this build too, so there you have it. Jab's always an option, and you can use either morph here that you want. The tooltip damage you see comes very close between the two. I would actually recommend going for biting jabs, as it will give you the major savagery, and then of course it will also cost you stamina, and we are in medium armor, so the stamina sustain is a little bit better than the Magicka sustain. A Magicka spammable is not the best idea for this build. So let's take a look at that restoration staff bar. So the first thing that I want to say is, again, iterate on how powerful the restoration staff is, and a big part of it, we'll look at it here, guys. Restoration staff, cycle of life. Restore an additional 30% Magicka when you complete a heavy attack, and then, of course, you gain major mending for 3 seconds after completing a heavy attack as well. This is what makes Resto so good on the hybrid. It's really fast heavy attack. It's channeled so they can't dodge it, and it's super easy to pull off mid-combat. You just keep fighting, back up for a second, swap to the Resto, pull a quick heavy, and then right back into the fight. The Resto staff is just a huge part of sustain on the hybrid. If you want to play this build without a restoration staff, you can, but you might want to look at maybe investing a little bit more into Magicka sustain if you decide to go that route. So the Resto staff, of course, like I said, being such a good weapon for the build, let's see what abilities we've decided to pair it with. So the first ability we have here is Reflective Light. This is going to be access to our Major Prophecy, so it's going to give us our spell crit portion of the buff. So without the weapon crit, that's what puts us at 35% both crits, and then of course with the weapon crit, we could have 45% weapon crit as well. This is also great because it's going to snare your opponents, and it is an AoE damage over time ability, which is awesome too. Quite cheap as well to cast. The next ability we have is Solar Barrage. So this is an ability that you may have seen in my Templar build video. It had gotten reworked in this recent Clockwork City patch to be a channeled ability that after you cast it, it pulses an AoE around you every 2 seconds. And this ability makes you absolutely spam Major Empower. There is no words to describe the Major Empower spam, so let's just see practically what kind of stuff this will do. So your normal combo on this build would be Solar Barrage, and you activate it, get the thing to go off, and then you Reflective Light into Crit Rush into your target. And then what you're going to do is follow up with maybe a partial charged heavy into your Binding Javelin. So what Solar Barrage is going to do is it is going to pretty much just spam the AoE around you. It's got 8 meters radius, which is quite huge, and what makes this ability so strong is not necessarily the amount of damage it does. It's not terrible damage. It is an AoE though, so it's not a huge amount, but it's that Major Empower spam that it puts on not only the single target that you're hitting, but every single target that gets hit by it, because it's an AoE. You can couple that Major Empower with your AoE heavy attack on your Greatsword. You can couple that Major Empower with your Dawnbreaker. I mean, you have so much potential to deal real burst damage on this hybrid, thanks to this ability putting Major Empower on you so easily. I've absolutely fallen in love with Solar Barrage, guys, and I am not disappointed by it on the hybrid at all. So the next ability we have, guys, is Repentance. Now, I put Repentance here because I love this skill. It's going to be easy stamina return, free heals whenever there's a dead body, and of course it'll give you access to all of the minor restoration buffs as well. So regarding Repentance, you also have the option to swap this out. This is the one ability I would say is not a necessity really for this build. I would say that you could switch it out for another Magicka-based or even stamina-based defensive ability if you want. I know a lot of Templars like to run Mist forms, so Elusive Mist, of course, is a good option here if you want to try it out. So there you have it. The next ability we have is Extended Ritual. This is going to be access to 5 harmful effect removal. The best purge in the game, ladies and gentlemen. Comes in so handy in PvP. On top of it, this will be another heal over time for us. We are a hybrid, so it's actually a really good heal over time. And standing in the circle, of course, is going to increase our healing power anyway. And this is great, too, because your allies can use it to purify all harmful effects from themselves as well. And then the last ability we have is Restoring Focus. And we've got Restoring Focus for that Major Resolve, Major Ward for both our physical spell resist. It'll give us minor vitality and minor protection to increase our healing and reduce our damage taken by 8% as well. And it's such a cheap ability to cast. So this is really your second buff on this build. We've got Rally being the first primary buff, and then Restoring Focus. So there you have it, guys. Very, very, very good all around, I think, kit here. We have a lot of buffs covered. We have a lot of different offensive abilities and major empower spam. I mean, I seriously can't complain. But let's take it to the next level. Let's check out the ultimate that we're going to run on the Restoration Staff bar. Now, a little bit of a disclaimer here is that I have not finished morphing this. I have not finished leveling this so it is able to be morphed. So my healing and in the footage that you watch later, I don't actually have access to Light's Champion, which is going to make a huge, like another 15% damage difference on your crit rush, just your crit rush, and then on all your other abilities if they crit as well. So the Resto Staff Ultimate is so good, guys. It's going to be not only 5 seconds of pretty much they need to do insane damage to kill you, but on top of it, once you morph it to Light's Champion, you will get Major Force and Major Protection, increasing your critical damage done and reducing your damage taken by 30%. I mean, this is just the ultimate icing on the cake. This would be... I can't even explain it. And just the fact that this build has been so successful without even having access to Light's Champion, and you'll see me use Panacea quite a lot, and I don't even have access to the really strong Light's Champion. So there you have it, guys. Very powerful Resto Ultimate. This is probably the biggest buff spam build I have ever played. I don't think I've ever played a build that has more buffs on it than this build. So there you have it. Very, 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 very strong build all around, I think. Let's take a look at the CP and check out what we have got in our champion points. Alright, guys, so to start in our green tree, we are in the Lover here. Let's take a peek. 20 in Warlord, 3 in Sprinter. We've got to break free, and we've got to sprint. How many times have I said that about this tree? In the... Oh, sorry, this is the Lover tree now. We've got 19 in Tenacity, 49 in Arcanist, and 64 in Mooncalf. Now, the reason that I've got such a heavy focus on the regen side here is simply due to the fact that I was trying out different foods with this build. If you are sold on not running the regen food and you want to run the tri-stat or the dual stat food, I would recommend putting about 10 more points in Tenacity and just taking them out of these two pools. Otherwise, this is pretty much an ideal spread for this. Focus here on Mooncalf because it's a little bit more stamina recovery that we have, and then of course 11% in Arcanist as well. And 19 in Tenacity, just for that 5% heavy attack. Wind Running being an important passive here. We're going to get Magicka Recovery while sprinting, which is pretty sweet, and then of course that increased movement speed is awesome too. And then in the Shadow Tree, guys, we got 56 Tumbling and 18 in Shadow Ward. That's pretty much it. Tumbling, we're going to roll dodge a lot. Shadow Ward blocking is a big part of PvP, so we will be blocking attacks. And then just 1 in Befoul to put our last point here. In the Apprentice tree, guys, we have got the offensive tree now. So the offensive tree on a hybrid is all about finding that nice even split for your hybrid build. So let's take a peek at it here. We've got 4 in Blessed, 5 in Elfborn, 15 in Elemental Expert, and 10 in Spell Erosion. So the reason that we've got not very many points in here is just due to the fact that we want some very important passives that our other blue trees offer. But the important passive we're getting here, of course, is that 12% spell crit from Spell Precision. And, yeah, I will say one thing about this build is that being max level on it helps a lot because you get access to all your passives in the blue tree. If you're not max level on this build, you will be missing a few of these passives in the blue tree, so it means that you're going to have a little bit less crit than you would normally. So that's just something to keep in mind about this build, guys. But otherwise, you can see we got a nice even spread here. Even put a few points in Blessed for that healing power, but not very much focused on the crits. We're not playing a heavy crit build, so we don't focus a lot on it. In the Atronach tree, guys, we have got 13 in Staff Expert, 35 Physical Weapon Expert, and 72 in Master at Arms. And this is just to increase that single target damage as much as we can. Those great swords the greatsword damage attacks there. So if you want to run jabs on this build, I would recommend maybe taking a little bit out of Master Arms and evening it out into Physical Weapon Expert. Do not put a lot of points into Staff Expert. Your Resto Staff doesn't do a ton of damage, so you don't want to try to make it do a lot of damage because it just won't. The important passive we're getting here is Tactician. When you roll dodge and attack, you set the enemy off balance, and that couples with the Ritual Tree's important passive, Exploiter, to increase our damage against off-balance opponents by 10%. So not only do we have all the buffs in the world on this build, we're also taking advantage of the bonus off-balance damage that we can deal by running a medium armor build as well and being heavier on the roll dodges. And of course, the second important passive in this tree is going to be Perfect Strike for that 12% weapon crit. If you don't have maximum CP on this build, ladies and gentlemen, this is what I recommend that you do. You focus on filling out your Ritual Tree first into 75 points, and then you focus on filling out your Apprentice Tree into 30 points, and then you just have to wait on Tactician, unfortunately. And the reason I say that is just because Tactician is the hardest passive to get here, and arguably the points spent here are your most useless points outside of getting access to that Tactician passive. So there you have it, minus maybe Master at Arms being quite a good one to put some points in here, depending on what abilities you're running. So, and when we take a look at these champion points in the ritual, we've got 32 mighty, 37 piercing, and 3 imprecise strikes. So we did go a little bit heavier on the physical damage for this build, simply because we did have to put more points into Exploiter. You always have the option of putting a few points into Thaum here if you want. I mean, we could easily do it, and it would make a bit of a difference to that incoming, that outgoing damage over time, and it'll affect both our Magicka stamina. So actually, you know what? I shouldn't have run this without Thaumaturge. I do this all the time when I make build videos. Please don't hate, guys, but I'm just going to change the points right now in hindsight. You should put a few points in Thaumaturge if you guys can. It is going to help for quite a few of your damage over time abilities. So taking a look at the red tree, guys, the Steed being one of our most heavy resource points to put in, simply because this is your best defensive tree, I think, for PvP. Ironclad will reduce the damage you take from direct attacks. Most high damage abilities in PvP are direct damage attacks. Resistant will reduce your incoming crit damage, which is fantastic. A lot of high damage attacks are usually crits on you. So this is just to bulk us up against incoming damage. 6 in Spell Shield for a bit of spell resist. 11 in Medium Armor Focus for a bit of medium armor resistance. In the Lady Tree, we've got 23 Hardy, 23 Elemental Defender, none in Thick Skinned because we have access to a Purge. We don't need the reduced incoming damage over time passive here. And then finally in the Lord Tree, we've got a whopping 56 in Quick Recovery to increase our healing done. Like I said, guys, this build has a ton of healing power, so you do want to make your heals very strong if you can. And that's exactly what we did. 12 out of a potential 15% healing power coming out of here. So great heals on the build, and that's just going to make it even better.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let us jump into that PvP commentary. Just letting you guys know that I do live stream quite regularly on ESO, so if you want to catch some of this footage, maybe even when I'm doing it live, feel free to check out that live stream, guys. As always, a link to my Twitch channel is below you guys in the description, and you can find it there. But otherwise, we have got a lot of footage. I know this is a super long video, but it had to be long because it's a hybrid build. I wanted to do a good job on it. So this is 17 more minutes to go here of PvP commentary. I really hope you guys enjoy this. So let us begin. Me and Mad Shadowman are defending on a resource here. There you can just see the huge burst from our Solar Barrage into Reflective Light. Knock him back with the Javelin, spamming the Empower on him to take that guy down. We set the combo behind the pillar there, throw a Reflective Light on this guy, and we manage to quickly bring him down with the Javelin stun. Go for the next guy with another Javelin stun. The Reflective Light, I think, hit both of them. Solar Barrage continuing to go off on him, and we drop him as well. 2 very fast bursty kills on the hybrid there, and then we come back to help out with the resource here. Mad Shadowman still taking a bit of pressure. We decide to go for this Nightblade here as he is a little bit lower on health. I go into my Solar Barrage. Solar Barrage, of course, is going to be great for fighting Nightblades because it is an AoE stealth detect. If you're on top of them, it'll pull them out of stealth every 2 seconds. So it allows you to drop those combos on the Nightblades when they're trying to stealth up close to you. As you can see, we take that guy down. I'm just kind of chucking javelin stuns around, trying to keep these guys not super on their feet. The more that we can stun them, the better chance we have of winning this fight. But as you can see, the blues just keep coming. More and more are showing up. We've slowly lost our guards. Mad Shadow Man goes for a huge AoE dump on those guys there. I unfortunately went for my Resto Staff Healing ultimate, so I didn't actually manage to go offensive here. And like I had said before, guys, I don't actually have the Resto Staff morph to Lights Champion. I'm still running Panacea, so I don't have the better Resto morph yet. And I don't actually have it for any of the footage, unfortunately, so we won't be seeing any super huge 10k crit rushes. But with Lights Champion, I'm pretty sure we could get pretty close. So there you see, we got a couple players down here attacking Mad. We're just trying to kind of lure them into the tower. They outnumber us big time here. There's a lot of them. A lot of them are starting to come up. And of course, there's a couple sitting on the flag to make sure it flips. When they come up, I go into my Solar Barrage, make sure I start pulsing. Try to go for maybe a Reflective Light there, but I was a little bit too slow. So I end up just going for the Javelin Stun into the Dawnbreaker Execute. Great kill on that guy there. Something to mention about this clip is it's the only clip where I'm running the dual stat food. As you can see there, my hit point's sitting around that 22k value. So it's not super terrible, but it's not anything crazy either. Quickly throw Mad and Honor the Dead there. We do have Honor the Dead, so we could potentially be coupled as a healer. I mean, this build just has so much utility in every single situation in PvP. I'm not really sure what to classify it as other than maybe a jack of all trades. So here we have the DK down here. Me and Matt, of course, are both vampires, and that's a rather tanky DK, so we just want to lure him up. As you can see there, they have guys waiting to gank us in case something happens. Mad Shadow Man takes a little bit of damage there. I throw him another Honor the Dead as the DK comes around the corner. The DK, not the DK, sorry, I think another player here goes into the Destro ult, and I end up going for my Panacea just to make sure that I have the healing power I need to push into the back there and kill that other player that was coming up the stairs, get a really quick burst off into him, and then I do a little bit of a switch here with Mad. He's going one direction, I go back through them, back to the guy that I just killed to prevent this other player from rezzing, and we continue to fight them. I get the bash off on the res, pull his attention so he stops trying to res and decides to come and chase us instead. Take a quick peek around the corner here. I see that the body's dead, so we only have to worry about these three now. I do a split over top of them. One of them ends up going for Mad, so now we have them split up in a 2-on-1 for me, a 1-on-1 for Mad, so we're splitting them apart. It's exactly what we want to see. I am a little bit lower on Magicka at the moment, though. Here comes another Nightblade coming out of them stealth. We're going to pop a quick heavy attack off on him, go into our Solar Barrage, and look at the stealth detect here. The Nightblade is trying to get away. We pull him out of stealth with the Solar Barrage and manage to finish him off there. Super awesome kill. I really like that. And then we go right back upstairs after just taking a drop down. Unfortunately, I take a bad fall there. I just kind of get caught in that little corner, so I got to run right back around again. We find a yellow player here. We're not going to give him too much attention, though. Not yet, at least. We want to focus on these blue guys. It looks like Mad had... oh, no, they're still both here. So both of the blue players are here. So I'm going to start fighting them. The Solar Barrage, another thing that I really want to say about it that makes it quite strong is that it's an AoE. So it's actually an unblockable AoE due to it being a player-based AoE. So it does a lot of damage through block. That's kind of a nice thing when you're fighting tankier players because they don't expect you to do a lot of damage to them, but then you have this pulsing ability that just seems to ignore their blocks. So it works quite well in that aspect. It's something I liked about it. There you see we managed to combo burst this guy down. Mad putting a lot of damage into him. This Nightblade shows up to attack us now, and we actually get the kill on him. I think what happens is I knock him back, and then this DK leaps on top of him and kills him after the knockback. So it's a combo kill between us and the blue player here, but this blue player still so darn tanky. I'm just throwing Mad Shadow Man some Breath of Lives as he needs them, and here comes another player. We've got a yellow Nightblade that shows up, and I mean, I was just going to drop down one level here. I was running low on resources, just drop down a level to kind of reset the fight, but unfortunately I get killed by the god of 1vx, which is fall damage. So there you have it. So let's forward into another clip here, guys. We're just doing some trolling around. There's a nice big blue DC Zerg there, right? So we're just going to start attacking players here. I set up my combo on this guy and go into him with the greatsword, put some good damage into him. This Templar shows up, starts whipping jabs at me. She's not doing too much damage, so I'm not too worried. Mad Shadow Man actually drops a meteor on that guy and gets the kill on him, so we just finish off that player there, and then we continue to tease this group a little bit, just due to having access to that immovability pot as well as constant uptime on the speed boosts that we have, guys. You can see just how easy it is to, well, really troll on this build. Really just troll on this build. As you can see here, we get kind of caught in the corner there. Mad Shadow Man, unfortunately, finds himself going in a different direction from me, and he gets a lot of players chasing him, and he ends up going down. I ended up going out the top here, and it looks like I just have the one guy chasing me here, so I just throw a heavy attack into him, do a quick peel behind the rocks here. I want to be careful because I know there's a lot of blues, and lo and behold, look what it is. We see some more blues coming over the hill. So my goal here is to just use my immovability / my very fast movement speed and just pull these guys apart until the numbers are more appropriate and I can re-engage with them. I pull back behind this rock here. As you can see, we're right back up to full resources. Pot is half off cooldown. I get a combo into this guy here. Unfortunately, I don't land the javelin. He has CC immunity, so he doesn't get stunned by it, and that actually might have been the difference between the kill there, just due to the bonus damage off crit rush, making a difference for it. But I take a bit of pressure and decide that I need to pull back one more time in behind these trees here. We've got a lot of terrain now to work with, and it looks like just a 1-on-3. So I set the combo, put the reflective light into this guy, and then start hacking on him with the greatsword. There you see the first kill, very nice and clean. This guy goes for the res. We quickly throw a javelin at him, come back around the tree, and stun the other player. So we actually get the double stun off there to finish the second player there, and then we're left to fight this last guy here, the tankier player that had engaged with me first. And as you can see, we're just a little bit lower on Magicka here, so what I'm going to do is show you just how good your kind of heals over time are. We're against a tankier player here that doesn't do a lot of damage, and we can straight up just channel resto heavies in his face. He's not going to be able to do enough damage to stop us from doing anything. We're just going to get our Magicka back, reset our combo here into the reflective light. There's the big stun. His buffs are down. We go for the finisher, and we take down the tankier player there. Beautiful little 1v3 on the hybrid, showcasing a bit of the speed of the build as well as the burst potential. So let's jump into another clip here, and this clip I think really highlights the hybrid kite game that you have. I'm not going to lie, this build was incredibly survivable. It was arguably one of the more survivable builds I've played in PvP on my Templar. There you see a nasty, nasty burst. We get both dots from the Solar Barrage, Reflective Light, in our crit rush. So much damage on that guy, and we just nuke him down. He was not ready for it. Right into these rocks here afterwards, and we've got a few yellow players here. Unfortunately, I get wrecked by what is the awesome terrain coding. Just in this spot, I guess. There used to be a lot more spots like this, but this is one of the few left where it's just kind of tricky to jump out of it. The Sork jumps on top of me, which is super annoying because he's going to put that minefield down, but I did stall long enough for my resto ult. I pop the resto ult and just roll through the minefield. It's going to be the best way to get out of that kind of nasty spot there, and once I've kind of reset myself, I go for a bit of a combo here, but I get jumped by a lot of AD players. Very low HP here. We see I pull the Honor the Dead and the Rally. Unfortunately, I'm fairly heal debuffed when I pull both of them. Still managed to get a pretty decent heal off, but not as much as I kind of wanted there. There you see we got off the resto heavy, just one Honor the Dead, right back up to full health. And we are almost off our pot cooldown as well, so we will be getting a lot of stam in pretty quick here too. There you see they get that heavy attack off on that player there, just to return a little bit of stam. Another heavy attack off on this guy into our Solar Barrage combo, and I end up sliding off the edge there, and he doesn't follow me, so I don't take advantage of the moment to kind of hit him. But another EP player comes in and ends up knocking him off the edge, so I decide to turn on him here. Of course, keeping my Solar Barrage up as well, making sure that I've got all of that AoE pressure on this build. This guy ends up falling in the death trap hole, and we're just going to tease him a little bit. We give him a resto heavy. He ends up gap closing out on top of us, which was the right call, I think, there. And now we have it where there's 2 players on top of us. Great stun on this guy, Dawnbreaker Executioner. Very nice combo. Of course, we've got the pulsation happening from our solar barrage there. Hybrid kills, 1vx. Oh yeah, baby. And then we're just going to come back to the rocks and reset. And there you see how we can just use this terrain. And we've got the pot back up. So we're going to go right back up to full stamina here. Almost back up to full magicka. And yeah, this does not look like a super low sustain build, really. I mean, you've got a little bit of spaghetti bars, as in they move all over the place as you're doing combat. But one thing that you do have on this build as well is the ability to return your resources very quickly. And then, of course, that immovability pod is going to make your stam sustain incredibly strong. So just with a bit of kiting and a couple heavy attacks, you can pull yourself right back into a fight when it's looking like it's not going to go your way. And that's exactly what we do in this fight here. And as you can see, we even put a bit of pressure into them in the field. We pushed out into these guys because they're not coming into our rocks anymore because they know this is our home. So we pull back to the rocks, and yellow's still being a little shy, but they have begun to pile up a bit more. So we are seeing a few more yellow players show up on this location here. I try to go for a bit of kite game here. There I get a resto heavy, go right into the crit rush Dawnbreaker, taking down the target that Nightblade was working on there. I believe the first EP player we'd seen here was a Sork, so maybe he ran away or died. We get a really nice stun on that guy, Javelin, crit rush, solar barrage, reflective light procs into the Executioner and the Dawnbreaker. What a sweet combo that was. Just so beautiful seeing those hybrid kills. Put in a lot of pressure into this guy here. He goes for the Sword and Board ultimate. Very good choice. Heals his way out of trouble there. And me and this Stamblade just kind of reset ourselves behind this rock here. Sticking together, sticking close. The Stamblade, of course, is going to love me, taking advantage of those heals over time I'm throwing him, etc. And the ability to purge. I pull back to the rocks here. I'm not the Stamblade, so I don't have access to stealth. And I just try to continue to split these guys up. Here you see the resources still very, very high. So we're doing quite well here resource-wise. But here you see a lot of incoming damage come in. And we take a pretty bad couple stuns there. Or stuns, and then I do a double roll, kill my stamina pool, and we're just unfortunately caught in a bad position. The pot, unfortunately, on cooldown as well. So there you see it. You got to be careful with your gameplay. Make sure you don't get caught in those moments where you're vulnerable. And let's jump into this clip now. Yeah, we're going to get zerged real good. So these guys jump on top of us on the zerg here, and they're like, yeah, you're going to die, Jack. And I'm just like, maybe not. Maybe we'll see if we can get away. And it works out quite well. Just a little bit of rock juking there, change a few directions, pop the resto alt, and we managed to quickly sprint out of a purge right back into these rocks here, effectively losing that larger group of players for the most part. There you see these guys are fighting another EP player down here. I put a great little combo into that guy there. Nice damage on that into the crit rush to finish him off. We set our combo here, solar barrage into the reflective light. Excellent stun. This guy goes for it. He does not heal himself. He goes for the execute. Zealous move. Unfortunately, not the right one in this situation. So I set the combo again, try to go on this player here, but I notice I'm taking quite a bit of snipe damage, etc. from players up top there. So we do a little bit of kiting behind the rocks here, and just using our terrain to line of sight and pull out. And then we get into the resto alt, so even on no resources, you see just how much healing power we have on this build. We managed to get away. So for the last couple clips here, guys, I wanted to show you that this build is viable in larger scale fights as well. This is not just a small scale fight, and that's due to the fact that we've got a lot of AoEs. We got Reflective Light, Solar Barrage, our Greatsword Heavy Attack, Dawnbreaker, all AoE based abilities. And here is a very, very messy keep fight. This is probably what you guys are used to seeing in PvP, these rather messier Zerg fights. And this build performs very well in these as well. And there's a few things that it does does really well in these fights. Number one, you can res, as you can see, super dope. Not really a focus of the build though. Number two, you have a move ability and you have a lot of healing power, so you can actually jump into the Zerg pretty comfortably on your own. And as you see, that's exactly what we're going to do here. Jump into this group of players here that's sitting in the corner, heal botting each other. They unfortunately take a negate. Oh man, what a brutal negate. We drop our Dawnbreaker on them as well, and we're going to spam the light attack Executioner. We're going to pull our Repentance to deny their Templars the extra resource. And as you can see here, just a few EP players putting a lot of pressure into these guys, but that negate was the big game changer here, of course. And yeah, you can see that you can really just kind of take some hits too. I mean, this is a pretty all-around bulky build. I'm not going to lie, guys, I really enjoyed playing this in all different kinds of combat. There you see another negate combo absolutely destroying those guys. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. This is the last fight we have for you, just a nice little burst clip. Big shout out to our sponsor, What the Fast, a VPN for gamers. They're a local Canadian company. They give me 30 better ping on average to ESO, guys. So if you get shitty ping on your favorite games and you're looking at maybe fixing that, a VPN might be the answer for you. It's free to try out in the link below. And as always, guys, have a fantastic night, and I'll see you next time.